I'm Adrian, the cruise and travel guy. It's been a big couple of weeks of news for cruising in this country, and after a few days digesting all of it, I have to say, I'm pretty bloody irritated. It's taken me a few days to really wrap my head around what's happening to cruising in this country and by that measure, this region. The closure of P&O Australia in March 2025 is just the tip of the iceberg, a symptom of a much bigger problem plaguing the cruise industry in Australia. In a way, the public demise of P&O has served to remind the Australian public that those of us especially that love cruising really should be concerned. While I'm not typically one for over-dramatizing, and while I don't think the local cruise industry is disappearing anytime soon, there are signs that things are in pretty bad shape. A recent report by Peter Lynch in the cruise passenger publication revealed that by 2026, Australia's cruise capacity could be cut by as much as 30%. 30%, that's a huge figure. Imagine going into work tomorrow and being told that your pay was being cut by 30%. It is significant. Anyone with a passing interest in basic economics knows that supply and demand ultimately drives pricing. So consumers may well be in for a shock when it comes to cruise pricing going forward, and we've already seen rises since the cruising restart 2 years ago. Peter Little, Carnival Corporation's country manager and chair of CLIA, said, "In this region, you have ports who are putting their prices up in double digits or even in triple digits, and that's not sustainable to continue to be lifting the prices and the price of doing business in the region. Many of the operators in this region are just saying there's headwinds that needs to be addressed if we're to continue to see growth in this region, but it's not sustainable at the moment." Tallis-born Marcus of Cruise Passenger reported just days ago that Australia's port fees are among the world's highest. In fact, they're 3 times higher than the world average. In the report, it's noted that port charges in Sydney equate to $44.72 per passenger. And using the Quantum class ships, the largest to call Australia home, as a test case, that brings the price of docking in Sydney to just over $219,000. Compare that to the world's cruise capital, Miami, and it's $93,685. And it's worth noting that for all of the attention Melbourne received recently for the increase in port fees to dock in that city, the cost to dock Quantum of the Seas there would be about $157,000, significantly less than Sydney. Sydney ports are owned by the New South Wales state government, and despite the world's highest charges, cruise lines have commented on insufficient local port infrastructure, particularly when it comes to dry docking or hull cleaning facilities. High costs mean reduced profit margins, and as companies with movable assets, they'll just sail them elsewhere, as we've seen happen already, particularly over to the Caribbean and the Mediterranean. But it doesn't end there. Regulatory hurdles are plaguing the local cruise industry, and Cruise Weekly led the charge last week on an expose that revealed, technically, come January next year, cruise lines will not be able to sail domestic voyages in Australia without first applying for a license. The legislation is called the Coastal Trading Act 2012, and it governs many aspects of shipping and trade in and around Australia. Under Section 11 of the Act, exemptions can be applied to specific industries or bodies. One was applied to the cruise industry, which meant that cruise vessels could operate freely between Australian ports. This was set to expire in December 2023, but was extended for a period of 12 months. Cruise Weekly reported that a spokeswoman for the Minister of the portfolio where this particular legislation lies, Catherine King, admitted that a promised review of the legislation had not even begun yet, with the current exemption set to expire in around 6 months on December 31st. In 2023, a decision to extend the exemption was only provided weeks before its expiration. These sorts of regulatory hurdles are one part of what cruise lines are referring to when they speak publicly about the strategic issues they face operating in our region. Cruise lines require years of lead time to plan and sell itineraries, and they cannot rely on governments that are incapable of providing them with a foundation, and a solid foundation and environment within which they can operate. I, for one, am completely fed up with lazy, bloated governments at all levels, frankly. Their inability to work with the cruise industry to ensure that not only will people who love to cruise continue to be able to do so affordably, but that the $5 billion annual economic injection and 18,000 jobs that it supports will at least remain the same, if not increase. Instead, we're seeing a shrinking industry with reduced capacity. These recent developments have really brought me back to that time and space during the prolonged industry shutdown. I remember feeling very helpless, but wanting to take action in some way, shape, or form. Even though it's one very small piece of a much larger puzzle, I've lodged a petition for review with the government. In it, I asked Catherine King to urgently extend the cruise industry's exemption under Section 11 of the CT Act for a period of 5 years. If the petition is approved, we need 50 signatures to ensure that it is read in the House of Representatives in Canberra. Again, it's a small thing, but we, the general public, especially those of us with a passion for cruising or a vested interest in it, need to stand up and let the government know that we will not accept lazy and irresponsible governance. In a way, I'm glad that P&O Australia's closure has become the catalyst for this groundswell of public outcry and support. With the help of CLEAR, the local cruise industry is pulling together to lobby governments to correct many of these wrongs, and our support will go some of the way to helping. These stories also need to be picked up by mainstream media. If you're interested in following along with the petition's progress and learning more, head over to my Facebook page and follow along there at The Cruise and Travel Guy. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts about this subject? Do you think Australia needs to do better for the local cruise industry and the thousands of people that are reliant on it for an income, and those of us that just love to cruise? Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to follow along on social media, it's at The Cruise and Travel Guy on both Facebook and Instagram. And if you're looking at booking a cruise, you can head to my website, thecruiseandtravelguy.com.au. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you soon.